Good morning. Let's get some more chapters read. Go for No by Richard Fenton and Andrea Waltz. Chapter 15, A Time for Reflection. I spent the good part of that morning perusing my way through books that wouldn't be published for many years. At least not to me, they wouldn't. And watching people with lives more desperate than mine on daytime talk shows that had clearly gone downhill over the years. But mostly I found myself reflecting on the previous evening's conversation and mourning over the years I'd wasted operating with a false, ineffective model of success and failure. The way I had squandered my time seemed almost criminal. I made my way back to the study and pulled the copy of Failure Way to Success from the bookshelf, deciding to review the concepts again in a little more detail. This time, I read the book from cover to cover, word for word. After all, who knew if one day I would suddenly wake up in my own bed and kick myself for not having studied harder. In the back of the book, I found a fold-out chart with the heading, The 5 Failure Levels. And suddenly, I had a great inspiration. I ripped the sheet from the book and folded it in half several times, placing it in the front pocket of my trousers. In movies, the time traveler always brings back proof that he's been to another dimension. If I were ever able to return home to my Elaine and my life in 1990, this page would be my proof. I closed the book and looked at the clock. It was getting late, and the car would be coming shortly to take me to the airport for the flight to Monterey. Now it shows us, I'm going to read it out loud, but think about this. Level 1. The ability to fail. 100% of the people on planet Earth have the ability to fail. It's where we all start. What keeps the most people at level 1 status is their intense desire to avoid any form of failure at all costs. As a result, 80% of all people never move past this basic level. Level 2. Willingness to fail. Level 2 people develop the willingness to fail, which means that they come to accept failure as a natural byproduct of the process of seeking success. Fewer than 20% of all people make it to level 2 for any sustained period of time. Level 3, a wantingness to fail. Having the wantingness to fail goes beyond mere tolerance or acceptance of failure as part of life. Wantingness means developing the desire to fail with the inner faith that personal and financial growth will follow. Fewer than 5% of all people ever get to that level 3. Level 4, failing bigger and faster. The people who ascend to level 4 are those who have come to the conclusion that if failing is good, then failing faster is better. And not just failing faster, but if one is going to increase their failure rate, do it going after big goals that are worthy of the effort. Makes those A-listers a little easier to reach out, right? Level 5, failing exponentially. This final level is for those rare individuals who understand that massive success requires multiplication of effort. Level 5 people enlist others to fail with them, knowing that if individual failure means individual success, group failure equals group success. And then it goes on. It says, and what it takes to progress through them. That's the important part. So, chapter 16. The limousine was right on time, and I was whisked off to the airport. What I didn't expect was to be let out next to a small 4-passenger jet at the edge of a private airstrip in the middle of nowhere. What's wrong with you? Eric asked. Well, for starters, I have a personal policy never to fly in anything that will fit in my garage, I joked, trying to disguise my fear as I eyed the small plane. Oh yeah, I was afraid of small planes at one time, wasn't I? He said almost to himself. Well, it's too late to do anything about it now, so hop in. Where's the pilot? I asked. Captain Bratton at your service, he said with a bow. You mean to say I fly planes in the future? I asked in utter disbelief. Not if you keep letting your fears get in the way, you don't. Now get in. I climbed hesitantly into the plane and belted myself in as my daredevil twin started up the engine. Soon we were rolling down the runway and heading toward heaven. There's a song out now with a line in it that says, "Do something that scares you every day." He called over the hum of the engines as the plane continued its climb. "Isn't that great?" "Swell. I've had my scare for the day. Can we land now?" I asked through clenched teeth. "Quit focusing on your fear and look at the positive, Eric." "Which is?" "You're expanding your comfort zone. You know, the comfort zone is never static. It's always in a state of expansion or retraction. Think about how courageous you're being." "I'm not being courageous. I'm shaking in fear." "Courage is not the absence of fear," he stated. "Courage is acting in the face of fear. It's being afraid of something and doing it anyway." "Do the thing and ye shall have power," I said in a voice of mock evangelism. "Amen," my twin replied. For the next 10 minutes, I kept acting as brave as I could. And eventually, just as he predicted, my fear began to subside, and in time, I actually began to enjoy the flight. "Well, you're looking a bit more relaxed." "Yeah, my heart rate is finally under 100, I quipped. "Good. It will take me a couple minutes to get us to altitude and get the autopilot engaged. Then we'll talk." I continued watching out the tiny window as he pushed buttons, turned knobs, and communicated with the tower as we glided over the Pacific Ocean, banking to the right and heading northward, up toward the coast of Monterey. Chapter 17. Learning to go for no. "So you're really trying to tell me that your willingness to hear the word no made everything you're enjoying in your life right now possible?" "No, Eric, I'm not saying that at all. I'm said my willingness to hear no got me on the right track in my career. But it was my wantingness to fail that catapulted me to the top. Catapulted me to the top," he responded. "I read this in the book, but explain the difference to me again." "Sure. A willingness to fail means a person will tolerate just enough failure to get what they need from life and no more. A wantingness to fail, on the other hand, means you're not just tolerating the no's in your life, you're actually beginning to seek them. When you develop true wantingness to fail, rejection starts being fun." "Who in their right mind thinks rejection is fun?" "Rejection is awful," I argued. "Says who?" he shot back. "Where is it written that rejection has to be awful? Why can't rejection just be slightly annoying or amusing or, for that matter, exciting and energizing? While we have absolutely no control over the action of others, we do have total and complete control over how we react. What if we decided to make each no we received and every rejection we encountered something to empower us? Instead of avoiding rejection, what if we made the decision to seek rejection? Instead of avoiding no, or perhaps simply tolerating it, what if we went out of our way to actually go for no?" Chapter 18. The most empowering word in the world. "Wait a minute. Did you say go for no?" I asked. "Yes," he responded matter-of-factly. "How does that work?" "Simple. Rather than setting goals for the numbers of yeses you are planning to get each week, you set goals for the number of no's you're going to collect." Now that's crazy. You want crazy? One of the salespeople we're going to play golf with tomorrow morning has a license plate that reads N Heart WTHNO. In love with no. You know why? Last year he won the award for getting rejected by more prospects than any other salesperson in the company. "You give an award for failing?" I asked. "Sure. It's one of our organization's top honors. At the annual award banquet, not only did he get a trophy, he also received a standing ovation from his peers." Praise from your peers for failing. Now I've heard everything. No, you haven't.
Mommy?
Yes, babe. I've got to read this, okay? When he got back to the table, he placed his award for the greatest numbers of no's right next to the award for being the top salesperson in the country. You mean to tell me the guy on your sales force who failed the most was also the number one salesman in the company? I asked in disbelief. 4 years in a row, he said. That's amazing. Yes, and it's what I've been trying to tell you. A few years ago, we hired a well-known motivational speaker at our annual sales conference. In the middle of the presentation, the speaker proceeds to tell the group that the most empowering word in the English language is the word yes. He even had everybody stand up and shout, "Yes, yes, 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 yes," at the top of their lungs. And I had to admit, it was very charging. I mean, the energy was flowing and it was all very motivating indeed. The problem, of course, was that he was completely wrong. What did you do? Well, I couldn't allow 800 salespeople to walk out with their heads screwed on backwards, so I did the only thing I could think of. When the speaker was done and gone, I climbed on stage and told everyone he was wrong. That the most empowering word in the world is not yes. The most empowering word in the world is no. I told him that hearing yes is the easy part of the job and teaches you virtually nothing. But learning to hear no over and over and over again and never quit, now that builds character and self-esteem. That's empowering. 2 letters from greatness, I said, remembering our conversation from the previous night. That's right. And those letters are N-O. Chapter 19. Setting no goals. Would you agree that the average salesperson slows down when he or she reaches their quota? My mentor asked. Yes, I replied. Why do you think that is? They're rewarding themselves for their accomplishment, I guess. Rewarding themselves by ruining their chance at having a record-breaking week or month? No, I think it's just the other way around, of staying within the comfort zone and avoiding the pain of rejection. Most people classify the amount of pain they must endure to survive in this world as necessary pain. Anything beyond that, by definition, is unnecessary pain. That's why it becomes so easy to dodge that extra effort. We've labeled it in our minds as unnecessary. That's exactly what I did this week, I finally admitted. I had a great Monday going. I was 3 for 3. And what did I do? I spent Tuesday doing paperwork, Wednesday in a focus group, and on Thursday I was playing golf. Until I fell out of bed and wound up here, that is. Ben Franklin said it best. Success has ruined many a man. Go see if Grandma's up. Yeah, well, I let having a great day turn into a horrible week. Well, let's look at what you have. Thank you. Let's look at what would have happened if you were setting no goals rather than yes goals. Okay. What was your sales goal for the week? My goal was to close 4 sales, I said. And how many calls do you usually make in a typical week? I try to get myself in front of 20 prospects every week. Okay. So what if, instead of having the goal of setting 4 yeses, your goal had been to get a minimum of 16 no's? What would have happened on Monday after you closed your 3rd sale? Well, instead of being ahead, I'd have been behind, I exclaimed. Correct. So what would you have had to do? I'd have had to increase the number of calls I was going to get to 16 no's for the week. Exactly. Your success would have led to an increased number of calls, whereas when you were going for yes, you decreased them. I get it, I said excitedly. Let's use my friend Paul, who is in network marketing, for example. If his goal is to get 10 people per week to come to a meeting, and typically about 5% of the people he approaches are willing to attend, then his goal would be to get 190 people to say no thanks. Yep, his goal would be to get rejected 190 people, by 190 people. You might call it the get rejected and get rich plan. Get rejected and get rich, I said quietly to myself. Eric, I'm going to tell you the truth. I have set a traditional success-oriented goal I have not set a traditional success-oriented goal in almost 10 years. I only set goals for the number of no's I'm going to get. You set no success goals at all? I asked in disbelief. None whatsoever, he responded firmly. If I focus on how well I was doing in terms of results-oriented goals, I'd probably slow down just like you did. But instead, I focused on behavior-oriented goal of constantly increasing my rate of failure. I have complete and total faith that if I set my failure goals high enough and do my best in each and every sales situation, then successes will come. And they always do. I understand, but it's still going to take some getting used to. It took a while for me too, and it took even longer for Elaine to get on board with the idea, but once she embraced it, there's no stopping her. How does Elaine get to apply the concept? I asked. Well, she owns 3 galleries now, 2 in San Diego and 1 in Santa Barbara. She owns them? I stammered. Yes, with a total of 45 salespeople who all have countless opportunities to go for no every day with every customer that enters the store. Believe it or not, research shows that 85% of all interactions between retail sales people and shoppers end without the salesperson ever asking for a buying decision. 85%. Believe me when I tell you, a huge part of Elaine's success has come from the way she's trained her people. No one walks out of an Elaine Bratton gallery with saying no at least once. My day's getting ready to start. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning. Sorry I'm kind of a fumbly-tungly here. I want to show you this one last picture. And it's the Go for No Science of Setting Goals. Just a minute. Oh, very nice. Go give it to Grandma or see if she'll put it in your hair. So, the process for setting no goals. First, use your current closing ratio to determine the number of sales opportunities you need to make to achieve the number of yeses you want for the week. For example, if your standard closing ratio is 10% and you want to make 2 sales, then you would need to sell to 20 people at your current rate of closing. Always set your no goals on a daily or weekly basis. Monthly goals will provide you too much imaginary wiggle time to correct. Number 2, at this point you have 3 options. Options A. If you subtract your anticipated number of yeses from your total sales opportunities, you arrive at your minimum no goal. In this case, 20 minus 2 equals 18. Option B. To play it safe, just make 20 your no goal to ensure your chances for success. Or option C. Plan for a sales increase by increasing the number of no's you're going to get. For example, if you'd like a 30% increase for the week, multiply 18, your minimum no goal, by 1.3, 30% up. 18 times 1.3 equals 23.4, and since you're always going to round up, that would make 24 your no goal for the week. Option A keeps you from having bad weeks that occur because you get off to a great start and then slack off. Option B builds a 10% increase in the number of calls and will provide a safety net for hitting your goal and probably a small increase. And option C will create a sales explosion to whatever level you desire. Yes is the destination, and no is how you get there.